My son sued me. He took my $18 million house, my entire legacy, and worst of all, he took my grandchildren. You'll never see the kids again. You crazy old woman, he sneered, right there in front of the judge, his words echoing in the silent courtroom. Desolate, I retreated to the old farmhouse my late husband Joseph had left me, a place I hadn't visited in years. It was during a melancholic afternoon, as I cleaned out the dusty attic, that I stumbled upon it, a small, unassuming safe, cleverly concealed behind a loose brick in the old stone fireplace. My heart pounded as I tried combinations, a strange intuition guiding my hands. Then it clicked. My birth date. Inside, nestled amongst old photographs and yellowed letters, was a thick envelope. The first line of the letter, in Joseph's familiar handwriting, sent a shiver down my spine. If you're reading this, my love, it's time for the truth. But let me tell you from the beginning how I got to this moment that changed everything forever. My name is Judith. I'm 67 years old, and until just 3 months ago, I truly believed I had a family that loved me. Joseph, my beloved husband, had passed away 2 years prior from a sudden heart attack, leaving me not only our magnificent mansion, valued at a staggering $18 million, but also several thriving businesses. I thought my son Mark, a successful 42-year-old lawyer, would be my rock, my support in my golden years. How terribly, tragically wrong I was. It all began innocently enough. Mark, his wife Vanessa, and my 2 beautiful 8-year-old twin grandchildren, Leo and Sophie, had moved in with me. I was in heaven, living happily, caring for the twins while their parents worked, cooking their favorite meals, taking them to the park every afternoon. My life felt complete. Then came that fateful October afternoon. "Mom, we need to talk," Mark said, his voice unusually serious, sending a chill straight down my spine. Vanessa stood beside him, her red dress, which I always found a little too flashy, seemed to glow with an unsettling intensity, her expression unreadable. "What is it, son? Is something wrong?" I asked, pouring coffee in my sunrooms, the very place Joseph and I had spent countless afternoons dreaming about our future. "We've been watching you, Mom. Lately, you've been acting very strangely. You forget things, you repeat conversations, you leave the gas on." I froze. It was true. Sometimes I misplaced my keys or repeated a story, but didn't that happen to everyone my age? It certainly didn't mean I was losing my mind. "Mark, they're just normal little memory lapses. Your father had them at my age too," I replied, trying to keep my eyes steady, a desperate calm I didn't feel. But Vanessa leaned forward, her calculating eyes, which always made me uneasy, fixed on me. "Judith, yesterday you gave the children ice cream for breakfast. The day before, you forgot to pick them up from school. The principal had to call us. That wasn't true. I would never, ever forget my grandchildren." But before I could even defend myself, Mark dropped the bomb that would shatter my world. "Mom, I've consulted with several doctors. We believe you have the early stages of Alzheimer's. This house is too big for you, and the children, well, they can't be in danger." The words hit me like daggers. Alzheimer's? Danger? What was my own son talking about? "I don't understand, Mark. I feel perfectly fine. I've taken care of the children since they were born. I would never harm them." Vanessa and Mark exchanged a look, a silent knowing glance that broke my soul. It was the look of 2 people who had already made a decision, a life-altering decision, without a single thought for me. "That's why we've decided it's best for you to move into a specialized care facility. We'll sell the house to pay for your care, and the children will stay with us permanently." My world came crashing down. My house, the one Joseph and I had built with so much love, the one that held 40 years of cherished memories, sell it? And be separated from Leo and Sophie forever? "No, Mark, this is my house. And those are my grandchildren, too. I'm not going anywhere." But my son was no longer the loving child I had raised. His eyes hardened in a way that truly frightened me. "Mom, you can either cooperate or we can do this the legal way. You decide." That cold threat was the beginning of the end. In the weeks that followed, Mark orchestrated a horrifying campaign against me. He hired doctors who, to my disbelief, confirmed his false diagnosis. He presented fabricated testimony from neighbors who supposedly saw me behaving strangely. He systematically froze my accounts, leaving me with almost nothing. The day of the trial was the most humiliating day of my life. Sitting in that cold room, listening to my own son, my flesh and blood, describe me as a demented and dangerous old woman, felt like my heart was shattering into a million pieces. The competency hearing arrived like a nightmare from which I couldn't wake. I sat in that frigid courtroom, watching Mark systematically dismantle my reputation, word by agonizing word. He wore his best black suit, the one I'd given him for his birthday just last year. The irony was a bitter taste in my mouth. Vanessa sat in the gallery, her gold dress shimmering under the fluorescent lights, as if this were a celebration, not my own living funeral. "Your Honor," Mark began, his voice professional, measured, the voice that used to fill me with such pride. "My mother, Judith, is showing clear signs of advanced cognitive decline. She can no longer live alone in that $18 million mansion without posing a danger to herself and to my children." Tears streamed down my cheeks. How could he be saying these things about me? I, who had raised him after Joseph, worked 18-hour days to build our empire. I, who had stayed up all night nursing his fevers, who had even sold my precious jewelry to pay for his university education. I present to this court the testimony of Dr. Miller, a specialist neurologist who evaluated my mother last week. An older man rose from the stand. I had never even met him, yet there he was, calmly deciding my future with words I never thought I'd hear about myself. After a thorough evaluation, the doctor stated in a monotone voice, "Mrs. Herrera presents symptoms consistent with early-onset dementia, frequent memory loss, temporal disorientation, and episodes of confusion that could jeopardize her safety and that of any minors under her care." "That's a lie," I shouted, jumping up from my seat, my voice hoarse with indignation. "I've never been with that doctor in my life." The judge banged his gavel. "Ma'am, maintain your composure, or I will have to ask you to leave the courtroom." My lawyer, an inexperienced young man I'd barely afforded after Mark froze my accounts, gently took my arm. "Mrs. Herrera, please sit down. This isn't helping you." "But how could I stay calm while listening to lie after lie?" Mark continued, presenting more evidence of my supposed dementia. Testimonies from Tiber who claimed they'd seen me talking to myself in the garden. The truth was, I talked to Joseph, visiting his memory while I watered the flowers he had loved so much. "Your Honor," Mark said, pulling out a thick folder, "I also present photographs of my mother's house. As you can see, there are clear signs of neglect and disorder that confirm her inability to maintain a safe home." The photographs were passed from hand to hand. I recognized my kitchen, but it looked dirty, messy, as if someone had deliberately trashed it. My living room was filled with stacks of old newspapers. My bedroom had clothes thrown everywhere. "Those photos are doctored," I whispered to my lawyer. "My house never looks like that." But no one was listening. Mark had orchestrated everything perfectly. Then came the worst part. Mark approached the stand and, with fake tears in his eyes that turned my stomach, began his final performance. "Your Honor, it pains me deeply to be here today. I love my mother, but my children Leo and Sophie deserve to grow up in a safe environment. Last month, my mother forgot to pick them up from school. They were found alone at 7 in the evening, crying because they thought we had abandoned them." "Liar!" I screamed again, my voice cracking. I would never do that to my grandchildren, but Mark continued his act. "Last week, she gave them adult medication, thinking they were vitamins. We had to take them to the hospital to have their stomachs pumped." Every word was like a knife in my chest. My own son inventing terrible stories about me, all to get his hands on my inheritance. Vanessa also testified, her voice sweet and falsely concerned, the same voice she used at family gatherings. "Judith has been." I opened the safe, my hands trembling, and pulled out the first item, a small, discreet digital voice recorder. I pressed play, and Vanessa's voice filled the quiet room, cold and calculating. "Yes, we're almost done with the old woman. The hearing is next week. Once Mark has control of everything, we'll start phase 2. The medication you got me will work perfectly. A heart attack during the stress of managing his crazy mother's estate will look completely natural." My blood ran cold. Vanessa was talking about my son's death as if she were planning a vacation. More recordings followed. Vanessa laughing as she described how she had been secretly drugging me during family dinners. Vanessa talking to the corrupt doctor about which symptoms he should mention in his testimony. Vanessa planning how she would spend the millions once Mark was dead. "The last document you'll find, my love, is a letter addressed to the FBI. I have compiled all the evidence against Vanessa for fraud, attempted murder, and conspiracy. The letter is ready to be sent. It just needs your signature and the date." I found the letter. It was addressed to the FBI office in the state capitol, meticulously detailing all of Vanessa's crimes with attached evidence. I have also prepared a legal strategy to reverse the court's decision. I have contacts in the judicial system who owe me favors. With this evidence, you will not only regain your freedom and your assets, but Vanessa will go to prison for the rest of her life. My mind began to process everything slowly. Joseph had not only discovered Vanessa's plans, he had prepared a complete counteroffensive. He had protected our true fortune, gathered incriminating evidence, and given me all the tools necessary to destroy the woman who had destroyed my life. But there is something else, my love, something about the children you need to know. What else could there be about Leo and Sophie? Vanessa is not the twins' biological mother. I stopped completely. How could she not be their biological mother? I had been at the birth. I had seen my grandchildren being born. The twins are the children of Vanessa's younger sister, a 16-year-old girl who died in a car accident shortly after giving birth. Vanessa adopted the babies and passed them off as her own to get more sympathy from Mark and from us. I remembered when Vanessa arrived with the newborn babies. She had said the delivery was difficult, that she'd had complications. That's why she looked so haggard. But now I understood she was mourning her sister, not recovering from childbirth. Leo and Sophie's real grandparents live in another city. They are humble people whom Vanessa pushed away with lies, claiming they were dangerous drug addicts. They have been searching for their grandchildren for years. Did that mean there was another family that loved my grandchildren as much as I did? That Vanessa had not only stolen from me, but from them too? Judith, you hold in your hands the power to save Mark, to get the children back, and to get justice for all the harm Vanessa has caused. But you also have the opportunity for something greater. To reunite those children with their true family. The letter ended with a few lines that made me cry as I hadn't cried in years. My love, I know you feel betrayed and destroyed, but I want you to know that all of this has a reason. Vanessa chose the wrong family to swindle. She chose a strong, intelligent, and brave woman who will not give up without a fight. You now have everything you need to win this war. Use it wisely. I love you forever, Joseph. I sat in that kitchen for hours, reading and rereading every document, listening to every recording over and over. The magnitude of Vanessa's betrayal was overwhelming, but so was Joseph's meticulous preparation to protect me. My husband had been one step ahead the entire time. While Vanessa thought she was executing the perfect crime, Joseph had been documenting her every move, every lie, every diabolical plan. But what struck me most was the realization that Joseph had died knowing all of this. He had lived the last years of his life, burdened with the knowledge that the woman we considered our daughter-in-law was planning to destroy our entire family. Why didn't you tell me when you were alive? I asked his photo that I carried in my wallet. We could have faced this together, but deep down, I knew the answer. Joseph knew me better than anyone. He knew I would have never believed something so terrible about Vanessa without overwhelming evidence. I would have tried to confront her, to talk to Mark, to resolve things amicably, and that would have given Vanessa the chance to change her plans, to erase the evidence, to disappear with the children. Now I understood why Joseph had been so insistent that we install security systems in the house, why he had started keeping copies of all important documents in different places, why he had insisted I learn to manage our finances independently. He knew that one day I would be facing this battle alone. I picked up the recorder and listened again to Vanessa's conversations. Her cold voice, planning Mark's death, filled me with a rage I didn't know I could feel. Once the old fool dies from a heart attack, Vanessa said, laughing, Mark will be so stressed managing the crazy lady's estate that it will be easy to trigger his cardiac problems. The doctors will say it was genetic, inevitable. In another recording, she talked about the children. The twins are perfect for generating pity. Poor little orphans who need stability. No one will question me keeping all the money to take care of them. And when they come of age, well, accidents happen. She was planning to harm Leo and Sophie too. The woman's evil had no limits. But there was one recording that particularly... Vanessa tried to interrupt me, but the judge silenced her with a stern glance. But you made a fatal mistake. You underestimated the power of true love. Joseph loved me so much that he protected me even after his death. Mark loves me so much that he is destroyed by the guilt of having believed you. And those children you tried to take from me love me so much that they never stopped asking for their grandma. Tears began to roll down Vanessa's cheeks, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of pure, unadulterated rage at having been discovered. And now, I continued, pulling the last most damning document Joseph had left in the safe from my bag, I want you to hear this. I handed the paper to the prosecutor. It was a full confession that Joseph had secretly recorded from Vanessa, where she admitted to killing her previous husbands and detailed exactly how she planned to kill Mark and me. When the recording began to play in the courtroom, Vanessa completely collapsed. Her cold, calculating voice filled the room. The idiots never suspect a thing when they die of heart attacks. It's the perfect crime. And when Mark dies, I'll have almost $30 million and 2 kids to make everyone feel sorry for me for the rest of my life." The room erupted in horrified murmurs. Even the judge seemed shocked by the coldness of her words. "That recording is illegal," Vanessa shrieked. "Joseph Herrera had no right to record me without my consent." "Ma'am," the judge replied in a stern voice, "when you were on private property planning murders, you forfeited any expectation of privacy." Vanessa's defense attorney, who had been fighting an impossible battle from the start, finally gave up. "Your Honor, my client wishes to change her plea to guilty on all charges." But Vanessa jumped up furiously. "No, I'm not pleading guilty to anything. That family owes me everything. Mark was a loser before he met me. The children were orphans nobody wanted, and the old woman was just wasting a fortune." Her words, raw and venomous, sealed her fate. At that moment, the entire courtroom could see Vanessa's true psychopathic nature. There was no repentance, no remorse, only rage at being caught. The judge didn't need to deliberate for long. "Vanessa Miller, this court finds you guilty of aggravated fraud, first-degree attempted murder, forgery, kidnapping, and criminal conspiracy. I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole." The gavel fell with a sound that was like music to my ears. Vanessa was dragged from the courtroom, screaming threats. "This isn't over. You'll all pay, especially you, Judith." But her screams faded into the distance as I stood there, victorious, surrounded by my true family. Mark hugged me, crying. "Mom, I can never forgive myself for putting you in danger." "Mark," I whispered in his ear, "you didn't put me in danger. You saved me. If you hadn't married her, if we hadn't lived through all this, we would have never discovered that Joseph had left us an even greater fortune. We would have never met David and Linda, and we would have never learned to truly value what we have." The following months were a time of total reconstruction. Mark went back to practicing law, but now he specialized in helping victims of family fraud. David and Linda, Leo and Sophie's biological grandparents, became the loving figures the twins had lost, embracing them with open arms. And I became a stronger woman than I had ever been. With the full fortune Joseph had left me, I established a foundation to help elderly victims of family abuse. The Joseph Herrera Foundation, I called it, so that no family will ever again be destroyed by greed. Leo and Sophie grew up surrounded by true love, knowing the story of their biological mother, proud to have 4 grandparents who adored them, and understanding that real love has nothing to do with blood, but with the heart. One afternoon, 5 years after the trial, I was in my garden, watching the grandchildren play, when Mark approached with a smile. "Mom, do you know what day it is today?" "The anniversary of something good, I hope," I replied, a lightness in my heart. "It's exactly 5 years since Vanessa was sentenced to life in prison." I was silent for a moment, thinking about all we had been through. "You know what, Mark? I had almost forgotten. That woman is no longer a part of our lives." And it was true. Vanessa had become a shadow of the past, while we had built a future full of light. That night, before going to sleep, I picked up the photo of Joseph that I always keep on my bedside table. "Thank you, my love," I whispered. "Thank you for protecting me, for teaching me that true love transcends even death, and for reminding me to never underestimate my own strength. Never underestimate this of a humiliated woman, because one day she may rise up stronger than anyone ever imagined."